Visiting Dublin and looking for the perfect pint? Stop searching and start building. This video is your guide to creating an intelligent Dublin city center pub finder. We will harness the strength of Django, MongoDB, and the AI capabilities of Voyage AI and LangChain to develop an app that caters to your unique pub preferences. From the setup to semantic search, we will cover it all. Get ready to build your way to the best of Dublin's pub scene. So what exactly is our Django MongoDB backend? Our official Django MongoDB backend library was actually released back in February for public preview. And this incredible Python package offers developers a ton of fantastic features, such as the ability to use Django Models with confidence, Django admin support, native connecting from the settings.py file, MongoDB-specific querying optimizations, and so much more. This combination of MongoDB's document model, ecosystem of tools, and various advanced features actually allows for Django developers to build a multitude of complicated applications simply. And so what is our LangChain MongoDB package? So LangChain is an open source framework that is used to build applications that are powered by large language models, or LLMs. There are a variety of use cases for LangChain, such as document analysis, chatbots, retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, and etc. It works by chaining together various components, or links, to create a very comprehensive workflow, where each link actually performs various tasks in the process, such as accessing your data, calling the language model used, processing data, and so much more. Because these links are very malleable, LangChain is actually known for its flexibility. With our MongoDB LangChain Python integration, developers are able to integrate MongoDB Atlas Vector Search with LangChain to build generative AI and RAG applications. And then, of course, what is Voyage AI and why are we using them? So Voyage AI actually provides world-class embedding models and re-rankers for any AI application. They specialize in creating these state-of-the-art embedding models, which help transform complex data, such as text, images, and videos, into vectors that have extremely high accuracy, are competitive in the space, and allow for fast interference and multi-language support. So Voyage AI was actually recently acquired by MongoDB with the goal of more accurate and context-aware AI queries inside of applications. For this tutorial, you will need a handful of prereqs in order to be successful. The first prereq, of course, is an ID of your choosing. This tutorial uses VS Code. The second one is a MongoDB Atlas account. You will be needing a MongoDB Atlas cluster. The free tier will work perfectly. Please just make sure that your IP address is correctly configured. You will need a MongoDB connection string with the username, the password, and the database included inside of the string. And of course, the dataset that we are using for this tutorial, it has information on 40 pubs and wine bars in Dublin city centre with the address, the name of each location, and 5 concatenated Google reviews. So please download this JSON file and add it to the root of your project directory. And I will have that in the description box below. And then, of course, you will be needing a Voyage AI API key. So once you have all of those ready, let's get started. All right, so here is a little demo of my Dublin City Centre pub finder. For example, we can go in and we can search for a Guinness outside with food, hit the search button, and we'll see the top 3 results that appear from the data that we scraped. And as you can see, we have the name of each pub or location. We have a review, which is just a short excerpt of the review, and then we have a similarity score. You can do this as well with wine bars because that was another term that I tagged. So you can go and say wine outside with yummy snacks, and this is our semantic search part. And as you can see, we get 3 amazing options for places that we can go drink wine in Dublin and eat yummy food. Okay, so now that we have an understanding of the end result of our project, let's just go through a little bit of the background on how I actually collected the data for those that are interested. So while looking around on Google Maps, I actually saw that Temple Bar was one of the more popular locations in Dublin. And then I used the Google Maps Places API, the new version of that, which allows for a maximum of 20 locations per API call. So I did 2 API calls in the location of Temple Bar, one for the tag of pub and then the other with the tag wine bar. So this way I had 40 data points for my file, and then that way we could find more options to grab drinks or food or whatever we're looking for in Dublin. From there, I saved all the places located in the Google Places API calls into this JSON document here. And then I uploaded it into my project folder. And as you can see, we have the type. So for example, I highlighted the pub and then the wine bar. I'll show you one with wine bar in it. Wine bar. What I did was I made sure that we had the formatted address with name of the place. And then I went ahead and I took in 5 reviews and I concatenated them to just have it be one long string. So as you'll see, if you take a look at my GitHub repo, these reviews are very, very long. So in the actual project itself, I just shortened it to 800 characters. So our first step, of course, was to just go ahead and download the Django-MongoDB-Backend package. And if you need help with doing this, I have a really great quick start that I will be linking in the description box below. Just some stuff beforehand, of course, you have to create a virtual environment and then put everything into your requirements.txt file. So we have our Django MongoDB backend, we have our python.env, Voyage AI, LangChain Voyage AI package, and then LangChain MongoDB package. Then, of course, we also had to create our actual project, so our Django project. So that's just my Finder one right over here. So once we have our project, we can actually go ahead and update our database settings. So with that, you just open up the Finder file, and you go ahead and you go to settings.py. And what I did was I replaced what was here before, which was just like, a filler one, and I replaced it with the specific cluster URI, including the name of the sample database that we were using. So before, I made sure to take this out because I was doing it live, so I didn't want anyone to see my important details. But when you're putting in your connection string, please make sure that you have your username, your password, and then the name of the sample database that you are using. And mine was just Dublin Finder. And then from there, what I did was I created an application based on the MongoDB template, which was my Dublin Finder. And then once you create that, it'll show up on the left-hand side of your screen as well, of your project directory. So once that has been created, we can actually go ahead and we can create our models.py file. And Django models are especially useful because they define the structure of the data based on our JSON format. So to have a better understanding of our raw data, let's just go back to take a look at one example. So we want to ensure that every document represents a place with a list of types or array of strings, a formatted address, a nested display name that is going to actually be our embedded document, and then a reviews field, which is the long text field that is going to be used to actually generate our embeddings on top of. And then, of course, we're also going to have an embedding field where we are going to store the embeddings that we generate. So let me go back to our models.py file and show you all what this looks like. So as I said, we had our embedded field here with our display name, and then we have our main model, which is our places, and we want to make sure that we have a place for where our embeddings will go. And all of this too will be in the written up article that I have published on Dev2. So once we have our models.py file saved, what we have to do is we have to add our new application to our settings file. So we can go in here and we can add that in our installed apps area. And as you can see, the name that I had here is just dublinfinder.apps dublinfinder config. So now that we have our application started up, I could have gone ahead and started putting in our views and our URLs and creating our templates, but we still need to actually embed our reviews field and then put in the data that we are going to be working with into our MongoDB Atlas cluster. So let's first do that and then we can go back. So in order to embed with Voyage AI, you are going to be needing a Voyage AI API key. So what I did was I created a new file called .env, which I'm not going to show because it has sensitive information, but it's just right over here. And then I placed in my API key using my Voyage AI API key. So once I had that set, I created another file called reviewsembedding.py. And this is just where I put in the script that we will use to actually embed the reviews field of our JSON file. So as you can see, we are calling our key, and then we're calling the exact JSON file that we want to be working with. We're just focusing on the reviews field because that is exactly what we are embedding. And then I went ahead and I generated the embeddings for my reviews using the model Voyage 3 Lite. You can use a different model as well. Just make sure to go through and make sure it's applicable for text. You don't want to use like an image model on text data. And then I just created a new field to hold the embeddings, and then I wrote my embeddings back to a new file. So this is my new file with the actual embeddings in place where I have my embedded reviews. So from here, then what I did was I actually went ahead and inserted my data back into my MongoDB cluster. And I did that using my new file. I just made a new file called JSON upload. And I went ahead and I just got my environment variable and connected to it. I specified the exact database and collection that I wanted to use. I loaded in our JSON file, and then I just used insert many because we had 40 documents. So now let me go ahead and open up my MongoDB Atlas cluster and show you what this looks like inside of my cluster. So as you can see here, we have all of our data saved along with the embeddings. So this is, if you want to have a more visual view, you can go and interact with your data from MongoDB Atlas. You can also use our GUI, which is Compass. But now that we have successfully stored our data, we can go back and we can get started on writing a script using the LangChain MongoDB package to do some very fun semantic search. So we want to integrate MongoDB Atlas vector search with LangChain to really get the most out of our embedded reviews, right? So just go ahead, double check, make sure that you have everything properly inside of your requirements.txt file. You're going to need the LangChain Voyage AI package as well as the LangChain MongoDB package. But then before we can actually get started with writing our script, what we need to do is we need to go ahead and we have to create our Atlas vector search index. So from here, we are inside of your cluster and you can go over to Atlas search. And then I already have one running, but I'll just go through what it's like to create one so everyone can see. We just go over here, we create search index. And then of course we want to use vector search. And then of course the index name, you can keep it as vector index. And then the database and collection, you want places info. You can click next. And then you can have, it's going to be the path that we want to work on is embedding. Number of dimension is going to be 512. And then we want to do cosine from similarity method. And keep in mind that the number of dimensions is 512 because we used Voyage AI's Voyage 3 Lite embedding model. If you are choosing a different model, please make sure to read up on Voyage AI's text embeddings documentation just to make sure that you are choosing the correct dimensions. And then you can either use a different similarity method as well. And if you want to change it from cosine, I recommend clicking this link and learning about the different types. So once you have all of this in, you can go ahead and you can click next, and then it's going to show up as ready. And once it's ready, you're going to see the status change. Now that we have that, we can go ahead and we can actually create our LangChain script. So let's go back to our code. So what I did was I went ahead and I created a new file and I named it LangChain integration. What I did here is I just took my embeddings object from the actual Voyage AI documentation, and this is what it looks like. So I have my key and then I have my model as well. And then I also took another vector store sample code from MongoDB's documentation, and then I connected both of them. So what I did was, if you look at my written tutorial, you will see that I changed some things. And that is because the first thing that we changed is that we needed to connect from our connection string. So that needs to be added in. And then I also wanted to make sure that I had my namespace properly developed there, along with the embedding key, and then of course our text key as well, because our text key is actually our reviews. So this is the finished product when I put it all together. And then I went in and I created, this was just to test it to see if it works. So I have my little similarity search with a hard-coded query. And the cool thing about LangChain is that it automatically handles embedding the query. So depending on whichever model you use to embed your reviews, LangChain will use the same model with embedding your query. And then of course I just went ahead and I post-processed it to make it look pretty great. So once I had that done and I did a little test to see if it worked and I was getting results that I liked, I wanted to actually go ahead and integrate this into our Django application and then finish up all the other necessary Django files. So the first step is I pretty much took this entire LangChain integration and I put it into our views.py file. It looks a little bit different because now instead of hard coding the query, what we're doing is we're getting the query from the user. Everything else is essentially the same, except for the post-processed. I just wanted to refine it so that we aren't ending in the middle of the sentence. I wanted to have the minimum characters be 800 instead of, I believe I had 200 before, just so that, the user can see a little bit more, because the entire point of having the semantic search is you're searching based off of the reviews, but I don't want to read through, I don't want to have every review be an entire screen. So if you're saying something like a Guinness with outdoor seating and the first result comes up, in the actual application, you may not see the words outdoor seating, but you'll know that because of the similarity score, outdoor seating was referred to somewhere in the actual review. So now that we have this, what we have to do is we have to go create our template. So I created some new templates here. And this is just where I put in all my CSS and my HTML to curate exactly how I wanted my front page of the site to look like. And you can do whatever you like here. This is very, very malleable and flexible. If you don't like the colors, you can create a new color. If you wanted to do this based on a different area, you can go ahead and you can do that as well. But now that this is in place, what we have to do is we actually have to connect our URLs so we have some place to go. So I went over to the urls.py file and I edited it to look like this. And these are just saying that when I open up the web page immediately, I want to see the text box prompting me to run the query. And then we'll see the same type if we just do search at the end. And then if we had an admin page, we would have an admin as well. But I didn't feel the need to make one for this tutorial. But a lot of Django projects use admin pages or the admin site. So if you need to go in and make one of those, that is very, very easy to do. And I'll link the quick start once again in the description box below, which will show you exactly how to do that. So once that was done, I could go ahead and I'll restart it for all of us with just Python manage.py run server. And that opens up my Dublin City Center pub finder. And I can do whatever I want. I can go ahead and I can go Pint with live music and see all of the places that are most semantically similar. Congratulations on building your own Dublin City Center pub finder. It's partly a side project, partly an excuse to experience Dublin, and 100% built with tools that I am super excited about. The Django-MongoDB-Backend, Voyage AI, and LangChain. So whether you're building competitive AI applications or just looking for a fun place to grab a drink, I hope that this tutorial shows how powerful and how fun the intersection between Django, MongoDB, and AI is.